Is there any issue with a cat butt being in the video for most of it? Because she's obsessed currently by my little viewfinder monitor off camera here. She can see this part of a cat and she thinks it's someone else. Let's crack on with half a cat on the screen. Galaxy Fold 6, is it any good? Well, I've been using this for a couple of weeks, carrying it around in my pocket, and I've had a pretty good time with it. But the question is, should you actually buy it? Also, is it better than these guys, the competition? And of course, we've got the Pixel Fold 2, we've got the Honor Magic V3 coming out, lots of rivals, also with the new 8 Gen 3 chip. But also, compared to their predecessors, we've got the Fold 3, Fold 4, Fold 5 here, and also the S24 Ultra. I've pulled out all the stops for this video. Where does the Fold 6 land? Should you spend £1,800 or $1,900 on this folding phone? And most importantly, the question we've all been asking ourselves, can an extra millimeter make all the difference? I'll be honest, after my hands-on first look impressions video thingy, I came away a little bit underwhelmed. The Fold 6 has a lot of nice refinements that do add up to make it a better experience. It's thinner, it's lighter, it's faster, it's brighter, it's more durable. We get even more AI features that you probably won't use. And yes, it is even more expensive. 50 quid or $100 more than last year, and still for a paltry 256 gigs of storage. And of course, if you fancy a case or an S Pen or even bloody charger, that'll cost you extra. The thing is, as a bit of a tech nerd, which I'm sure you are as well, I don't have a problem sometimes, every now and then, spending a lot of money on something if I think it's the best of something. Like if I'm getting my money's worth, if nothing else can do this as well as this. And as much as I have been having a good time with this, and I think it is a terrific foldable phone, I just don't think Samsung's done enough. Same size battery, same charging speed, basically the same camera as last year. Although actually, if I just spoil a little bit later in the video, just look at these photos side by side. The 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and the S24 Ultra. I will cover all this in the camera bit in a moment, but because of Samsung's Pro Visual engine and also the improved ISP on the new chip, it is a better camera. But it's not good enough, and it's certainly not as good as the S24 Ultra, which came out, what, 5-6 months ago, and also costs £600 less. I appreciate they've had to make some compromises and different decisions to get it in this form factor, and you are buying this because you want a tablet screen, not necessarily the best camera phone. But you'd kind of think, given how this remains so expensive and how in all other regards, basically this is a top spec, all singing, all dancing phone, that the camera just still falls behind a little bit. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead, we'll come to that in a second. Now, to Samsung's credit, they have addressed my #1 issue with the Fold, and that was just how ridiculously narrow the cover screen is. Some people claim they loved it, those people are lying. It was too narrow, too much like a remote control. This year, the key thing is it's 1mm wider. In fact, the whole tablet is actually a little bit shorter, wider, and also thinner. It's a slightly different aspect ratio, which I 100% approve of. It is a subtle difference, but it does make it more comfortable to use and typing a little bit less squished. And it is now near enough a 21:9 aspect ratio, which is what you'd get on a Sony Xperia phone. Personally, I'd wish they'd gone a little bit further. Your Vivos, your Pixels, your OnePluses all have a bit more of a normal, quote-unquote, phone screen for the cover, but this is certainly a step in the right direction. And it's made a pain point just a bit less painful. Although, speaking of pain point, I was very happy with my script writing for this because if you actually pick it up, let's talk about the design. The first thing I noticed, if you pick it up with your left hand, this little corner jabs into your palm, whereas the Fold 5 has this slightly filleted corner. It is not the end of the world. Don't not buy it because of it, but it is something I noticed pretty quickly. Oh, and of course, it is still very wobbly on the desk. In fact, let me just bring in. This is like a feature I'm going to call now of the Samsung Folds. I think it might be one of the wobbliest, in fact. It doesn't happen as much, obviously, when it's open. That is one reason to maybe get a case with this, not only to protect your £2,000 nearish investment, but also the S Pen. The new S Pen cover case is much slimmer. I really like that. So not only does it prevent it from wobbling on the desk, give you some protection, but also it houses the S Pen. So definitely consider that. 4 generations of Galaxy Z Folds side by side. It's definitely an evolution rather than a revolution in terms of design, but certainly the 6 is the best so far, as you would hope. And it's pretty crazy actually how chunky and how heavy these older ones are. Even versus the Fold 4 from 2 years ago, the 6 is 24 grams lighter. Also, please ignore the fact that I may have dropped a phone on my Galaxy Fold 5 a few months ago, which has cracked the glass. It's Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which is the same as you get on the Fold 6. But while the glass is the same, actually it is a lot more durable. One of the key upgrades here is that we now have IP48 water and dust resistance. The first time we've had dust resistance on a Fold. We also have the aluminium frame, which is now matte rather than glossy, and it's 10% more scratch resistant, whatever that means, from Samsung. And they've also got a new FTG glass, or foldable thin glass rather than UTG, which they say makes it a bit tougher, but also slightly reduces the crease. Now actually, in my hands-on, I did say that I couldn't notice any difference with the glass, with the crease, but I'm gonna say that's not quite true because I've had more time with it now. And side by side with the 5 and the 6, visually not significantly different, but as you run your finger over it, it's less of a crater, if that makes sense. Kind of hard to explain. So a small improvement to the crease and the screen overall. And also the bezels, particularly on the front screen, have been reduced quite significantly actually. And with these squared off corners, a very similar aesthetic to the S24 Ultra with its more boxy look. And not only is it lighter, but it is also thinner, 1.3 millimeters thinner in fact when folded, and half a millimeter thinner when open. I think it looks a lot smarter, we get more screen space, overall quite a nice step up in terms of design and importantly durability. Still a little bit boring looking, if I'm honest, that. What do you think? Obviously we do have new colors, Silver Shadow as I have here, we have pink and navy, all a little bit bland if I'm honest. I think I'd actually go with either the crafted black or the crafted white options that you can get online at Samsung.com, and as I say I'll leave a link in the description if you want to have a peruse for yourself. One of the main upgrades though is the new chip, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy, which is a fair bit faster. How much faster you ask? Well, I've actually run the numbers just for you, and I'm going to bring in these guys, going all the way back to the Snapdragon 888 with the Fold 3, and actually looking at the numbers in Geekbench to start with, and certainly if you are coming from a Fold 3 or 4, you will definitely appreciate the speed boost here. And particularly if you play games. If we switch over to the Wildlife Extreme stress test, it's funny, even though the Fold 5 introduced the Vapor Chamber Cooler, which is also returned for the Fold 6, the stability is actually quite a bit lower than the older, less powerful Fold 3 and Fold 4, but still we are getting significantly higher scores. A roughly 20% uptick from the 5 in terms of graphics. Still 12 gigs of RAM though, still the same storage options, no change there. 256 gigs for the base model, then 512, a 1TB option if you are Mr. Moneybags. I think for this price it would have been good to see a little bump in RAM or maybe 512 gigs starting. In fact, that would definitely have been nice to see. It feels a bit stingy, I have to say at the moment. But despite that, with the new chip, with the 120Hz screens, with One UI 6.1.1 built on Android 14, it is a very fast and slick experience. It's genuinely really nice to use this. So whether you're just doom scrolling in socials, playing demanding games, or pretending to utilize the 4-app multitasking the Fold offers with 3 side by side and a 4th floating on top, it all handles it flawlessly. The multitasking, the flex mode, DeX, the Galaxy AI features, the S Pen, all this extra stuff that perhaps isn't really represented on a spec sheet does add up to make the Fold 6 stand out. Still no sign of Wi-Fi 7 on the Fold 6. Not the end of the world because like 5 people have a Wi-Fi 7 router. I am one of them actually, but for that kind of price, given that this is all about future-proofing, would have been good to see. Let's talk about the battery, because the Fold 6 shares the same size 4400 mAh cell as last year's Fold 5 and the same 25-watt charging. Plus wireless and reverse charging, of course. So no change in the battery hardware there, but Samsung says, thanks to efficiencies of the new chip and various optimizations, it should last a little bit longer. Well, shout out to my good buddy Ben over at Lover of Tech, who made this fantastic extreme battery drain test video, where in the end, the Fold 6 lasted less than 10 minutes longer than the 5. Although I suppose, considering we do have a more powerful chip and a thinner chassis, it's not a bad result actually, and this was a very demanding test. So the Fold 6 will easily get you through a full day of use. If you do have 10 seconds at the end of this video, go and check out Lover of Tech, and we've got to get into that 100K. Quick mention of the screens, because there isn't a whole lot to talk about really. Same 7.6-inch internal tablet screen, same resolution, 120Hz, although a slightly changed aspect ratio, but nothing significant, still very much a square. Of course, we've got the slightly bigger 6.7-inch cover screen. The main difference is they've bumped the peak brightness up to 2500 nits, but otherwise, still the same lovely screen as before. Of course, the issue with a square-ish aspect ratio is that if you are watching movies, you're going to get some pretty chunky letterboxing. Actually, I find myself watching movies on the cover screen more often than not because it actually suits the almost 21:9 aspect ratio there. But I do quite like, because it is a foldable, you can put it in what we're going to call it tent mode there and watch it like that. And actually, if you do put it back to the main cover screen and then fold it a little bit into what you call flex mode, it puts it onto a top screen there. So in a similar way, you can then kind of watch your movie. And of course, then you can open it up for the full tablet screen, up to 3 apps side by side, a 4th one floating on top. And you can also have a split screen, one top, one bottom on the front cover as well. This is all about versatility and productivity, if you think you can utilize this. The only thing that still sucks is this under-screen camera. Still the same 4 megapixel camera introduced a couple of years ago now, I think it is. It does a reasonable job of hiding, blending in under the screen there. You can still see it's a little bit pixelated up close, but it's not distracting at all. Quality's a bit rough. It's mostly just for video calls. Most of the time, you're going to want to use these cameras. Let's talk about these cameras, okay? So, still 5, 50 megapixel main, 10 megapixel 3x telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide with the new sensor, as well as the 4 megapixel under-screen camera and the 10 megapixel cover camera. 5 in total, same as before. The only changes are the new ultra-wide sensor, being able to shoot 4K 60 with it, and also some of the processing and algorithm upgrades. We now have Samsung's Pro Visual Engine, which actually is not just marketing fluff. It does seem to make quite a significant difference, particularly to dynamic range. You can see with this extremely backlit shot here, both for the main camera and particularly the ultra-wide, it does a much better job than the 5 at avoiding that bright background being completely blown out. Let's do a little side-by-side video test and also give you a bit of a tour of the studio. We're all in today. Pete's over there. Hi, Pete.
Morning.
Although the real boss is actually here. This is Sylvie the cat, working hard. So I'm filming this 4K 30 with the rear cameras, just walking around, changing the lighting. The new Pro Visual Engine is supposed to reduce the noise in lower light, particularly for video. So you have to let me know what this looks like. Working on a couple of laptops at the moment, a gaming handheld, some phones I can't talk about yet. Lots to do in fact. I should probably get back to work. So if you've used a Fold from the last few years, this will all be very familiar. You've got your 0.6 times ultra wide, 1 times and your 3 times. You can whack it up to 30 times digital, although to be honest, even the 10 times is pretty ropey. So I wouldn't go beyond 3, which obviously is quite a big limitation compared to going with something like an S24 Ultra. Still, even if it's not the best camera phone, you do obviously have the flexibility of using the cover screen preview. I'm actually shooting this with it unfolded, so I'm using the front screen, the cover screen preview, so I can see what you're looking at, frame my video, and then shoot with the main cameras rather than having to rely on the lower quality selfies. And of course, being a foldable, you can use it in flex mode and it acts as its own little tripod. Samsung are promising 7 years of OS updates, which is very reassuring, fantastic support there, and this chip's running their One UI 6.1.1 software, which adds a couple of new Galaxy AI features, but it's nothing that significant really, although I do appreciate we have this new Galaxy AI menu in the settings. But some of the Galaxy AI image generation tools are a lot of fun to play with, whether you're giving yourself a top hat or a rabbit on your shoulder. That actually came out better than I expected, to be honest. It's more the eraser tools and the image generation within the Gallery app to sort of fix photos that I use more often, although I still maintain one of my favorite software features on these Samsung phones is the ability to make any video go slow motion just by touch and holding the screen. Not everyone will agree, but I think that Samsung is still out in front. They do the best in terms of software, particularly on the Folds. And there's a larger point about the whole Samsung ecosystem with the Galaxy Ring and the new Watch 7 and 7 Ultra, their tablets, their phones, you've got QuickShare, SmartThings. Pretty much everything that people love about the Apple ecosystem is available within the Galaxy ecosystem as well, which is not something most of its rivals can offer. So let's wrap this up. Should you buy the Fold 6? Well, possibly. is my annoying answer to that. If you know you love a Fold, if you've used one before, if you know and love it, then sure. I don't think it's a significant upgrade. There's lots of little nice refinements, particularly the design. We've got the new chip, which makes it more future-proof. The camera is appreciably better than the 5, but not significantly, not night and day. I think if you're still rocking a Fold 2, 3, or perhaps even a 4, it might be worth upgrading, but you can't get away from the fact that it is £1,800 or $1,900. What I would do is wait and see what the Pixel Fold 2, or whatever they're actually going to end up calling it, looks like, or indeed here in the UK, the Magic V3 from Honor is coming out, and by that point, we may see some deals and discounts on this as well. So perhaps it's just worth waiting an extra month or two. I do love the Fold. I genuinely love this phone. I just don't think it's a huge upgrade, and it's just getting a little bit boring from Samsung. So my dream Fold 7 would be an even wider, just a little bit wider cover screen still, because it's still a little bit small for typing on. Much better camera, bigger battery, and also I'd love to see them bring over the anti-reflective screen that we get on the S24. It's one of the most underrated features for me. What a difference that is with the more anti-reflective Gorilla Glass that you get on the S24. I would have loved to have seen this on the Fold. It would have made a huge difference. So hopefully next year. But if you do fancy checking one of these out, I will leave a link below. Let me know if you've got any questions. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time right here on the Tech Chat. Thanks for watching.